Last week I put out a vlog where Vincent and I traveled to Arizona and shot guns for the first time. In the vlog I included a lot of b-roll that I shot on Super 8. In this video I wanted to talk about what it was like shooting on Super 8 for the very first time and what I learned to help anyone who is looking to start shooting on film. If you like art and entrepreneurship type content, make sure to like this video, jingle all my bells and buttons for new videos every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and I quit my job to go full-time to become an online content creator. First, let's start with why I decided to learn how to shoot on Super 8. I wanted to learn how to shoot on actual film. I was a storyboard artist at Disney, which meant that I have a lot of experience boarding for cartoons and stuff like that, but I don't actually have a whole lot of practical experience with cameras and film. When I started producing video content here on YouTube, there was a huge learning gap. So I am trying to learn as much as possible about how to film not only on digital cameras, but also film. I also have camera gas, gear acquisition syndrome, where I just want to acquire everything. But as much as I want an RE cinema camera, I don't have $100,000 laying around. So I decided to go the opposite direction and research film cameras. I love movies and I've always loved the way film looks on the big screen, whether it's the color or the film grain. It's just really beautiful to me. Eventually I would like to shoot something completely on film. Instead of jumping straight into 16mm film, I decided to start small with Super 8. So let's talk about the camera that I used. Initially I wanted to use this Minolta that I found at an estate sale. It's the Minolta AutoPack 8 S6, but sadly it doesn't work and it needs to be sent out for repairs. If you're interested in getting a Super 8 camera, don't make the same mistake that I did. There are plenty available on eBay and estate sales. Just make sure that they are listed as film tested, or you can put some fresh batteries in it and make sure the motor is running, and then you're pretty much good to go. Since the Minolta didn't end up working out, I checked on Craigslist and I found this beauty, the Nikon R10 Super. Honestly, this camera might be a little bit of an overkill for someone who is new to shooting on film like me, but I intend to use this a lot and I really want to learn how to use this thing to the maximum of its capabilities. The first thing that really impressed me about this camera was the 7 to 70mm lens. It can really zoom in. It also has a really nice macro mode to shoot close objects, and it shoots at the normal 18 frames per second for Super 8, but it also shoots on 24 frames per second and 54 frames per second. So you can technically shoot slow-mo on Super 8 with this camera. As for film, I used the newly re-released Ektachrome film for this camera because I just wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. Honestly, the reason why I chose Ektachrome was because I loved all the footage that I saw of Ektachrome on YouTube, and everyone on YouTube was talking about it, so I had to give it a try. As a complete beginner, I had a little bit of a hard time figuring out how to put the cartridge into the Super 8 camera because it didn't seem like it would fit. The cartridge seemed a little bit bigger than the opening. So for anyone who is like me, make sure to put the film side of the cartridge up against the motor of the camera. Just trust when you push it in, it'll fit. It kind of snaps in place. Is that a problem only I had? I just treated these things very delicately and I started to realize like these things can be manhandled a little bit. So I took it out for the first time on our road trip to Arizona. I thought it was the perfect occasion to shoot on film because Arizona has beautiful cyan skies, red mountains, and amazing desert scenery. We got some pretty cool shots of our road trip. I also used the Super 8 when we went to the shooting range, and here was my first mistake. When I got the footage back, I noticed immediately all the footage is way too dark. The thing is, there was plenty of light inside the building. We just had no idea what we were doing. So for example, I didn't know how to set the exposure on the camera yet because basically right after I got a hold of the camera, we went straight on our road trip. I didn't really have time to read the manual. Our film wasn't really made to be used indoors, so a lot of the colors ended up looking really muddy and bluish. whereas I thought the outdoor footage was going to be totally overexposed, but it was fine. I realized that for Super 8, these cameras need quite a bit of light in order to get a really good image. I also forgot that this camera actually has a built-in filter. I have this quarter here to displace the filter so it doesn't trigger, because it's truly meant to be used for tungsten film, which means it will give all your film a slight orange cast, and you don't necessarily want that unless you are using tungsten film. I think next time I will try taking out the quarter and try out the filter, especially indoors. It'll take some trial and error to figure out how exactly this thing films indoors. But at the same time, I kind of really liked that grimy blue look for when we were shooting guns, because it really gave it a really cool vibe. Less nostalgic and beautiful and more grimy. It fits the subject matter a little bit more. Before I move on to getting the film processed and scanned, comment down below if you've ever shot on film or if you're interested in shooting film. Once I finished the whole cartridge of film and we came back to LA, it was time to get the film processed and scanned. Depending where you live, you might have to ship your film off to a faraway place to get it processed and filmed. You might have to include your SD card or hard drive to get your film shipped back to you. Since we live in LA, we have this amazing Super 8 processing and scanning location that we like to use. It costed me $75 to get the film processed and scanned in 2K, which for my purposes to upload YouTube videos is perfectly fine. If I were doing something more professionally, I would probably get the film scanned at 4K. As a complete beginner, I had to really look up what the terminology was for getting the film processed and scanned. For example, I really wanted my film to be overscanned, which means it will overscan the image, so it includes the sprocket on the side as well as a little extra on the top and bottom. That way you get the classic Super 8 look that everyone else copies with filters with varying success. The whole process took about 5 business days before I could finally see the final result. Once I got the footage in my hands, it was such a joy to see everything for the first time. Because it's Super 8, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. But even so, it's really cool to see even my mistakes, to see what I saw at the time translated in a completely different way. Everything inherently looks a little bit nostalgic, vintage for lack of a better word. It's a vibe that I would have to otherwise work really hard to replicate with digital. It's so neat to see the way the film flutters on the screen because it is shot on 18 frames per second, and you can see a little bit of what is coming before and after the shot. And the film grain is just so delicious to look at. All those little white dust or scratch particles on top of the film just is so cool. I don't know exactly the right terminology to use for those things. If anyone knows, please let me know down in the comments down below. And I get a clean clip of how the film roll starts with bright white and then it flips to the first shot of the reel. And that brings me to color correcting and grading this footage for my vlog. I was really shocked with how much I'm able to push the grading. It might be because I got the film scanned in best light, which preserves a lot of the color information of the image. But for example, a lot of my underexposed indoor shots, I was really able to pump up the lights and midtones to really be able to see what is happening without getting too much grain and too much noise. And even if you did, your footage already has so much grain to it that it's not like anyone would really notice. I think that's another reason why you can really push the color correction and stuff like that. It's still going to gray out some of the blacks in the image. For example, where the sprocket is, maybe a professional would be able to tell, but honestly, for the purposes of YouTube, I'm not sure a whole lot of people would be able to tell. In general, I had a really good time shooting Super 8 for the very first time, and I can't wait to take this camera out some more and shoot more footage for future projects and videos. If you want to learn learn more about how to use social media to grow your online business, check out my free guide, 8 Steps to Launch Your Online Store. Head over to honeyandabsinthe.com to help support this channel by buying some merch. Check out these other videos next to learn more about how to grow on YouTube and other social media. If you like the video, jingle all my bells and buttons for more art and entrepreneurship type videos, and don't forget to dare to dream.